10 ancient discoveries that rewrote world history. Even scientists can't explain them. What do you think would happen if an ancient golden mask suddenly revealed the existence of a kingdom that had vanished from history for thousands of years? Why was the bottom of an ancient Roman well in Croatia filled with the remains of soldiers who had been mysteriously executed? Who built the secret tunnels stretching dozens of yards beneath a Roman arena nearly 2,000 years ago, and what were they trying to hide? How did a Mongol warship remain at the bottom of the Sea of Japan for more than 700 years, standing as haunting evidence of a failed invasion? Hello, and welcome back to Ancient History, the channel where we explore forgotten secrets, lost civilizations, and mysterious archaeological discoveries that once shocked the global scientific community. In today's video, we'll descend into the dark ancient tunnels beneath Rome, dive deep into the Sea of Japan in search of a lost Mongol warship, uncover nearly perfectly preserved Viking skeletons in Denmark, and witness thousand-year-old treasures recently excavated from the legendary city of Troy in Turkey. Discoveries that even today, modern science still cannot fully explain. There are still unanswered questions, civilizations filled with missing pieces, and mysteries that seem to challenge humanity's entire understanding of world history. So, are you ready to uncover the secrets hidden behind them? If you are, then let's begin right now. More than 10 female skeletons beneath the Blue Cave Lake reveal a brutal punishment in China. Hidden deep within the Miaozhou region of Guangdong Province, China, lies a small lake that local residents have whispered about for generations under a haunting name, the Drowning Blue Cave. At first glance, the place looks no different from a perfect diving destination surrounded by peaceful natural scenery. The water is so crystal clear that divers can see straight to the bottom. The temperature remains steady year-round at around 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and there are no dangerous underwater currents or whirlpools. Because of this, Blue Cave Lake once became a popular destination for professional divers in Guangdong, China. But few people could have imagined that beneath those calm waters was hidden one of the most horrifying secrets ever discovered beneath a lake in China. When archaeologists first began paying attention to the area after a shocking discovery made by diver Zhang Song, the situation quickly became far more than an ordinary exploration. While diving more than 49 feet below the surface, he suddenly spotted human skeletons scattered throughout the cold darkness underwater. But what terrified him most was that many of the remains were still tightly bound with iron chains. The discovery was immediately reported to local authorities, and Guangdong Province's Cultural Heritage Department quickly dispatched an archaeological team to investigate the site. After conducting a detailed underwater survey, archaeologists recovered more than 10 human skeletons. In addition, they discovered large compacted earth blocks that had once been used to anchor iron chains to the bottom of the lake. Research later revealed that all of the remains belonged to women and had been lying beneath the water for more than 100 years. These skeletons were not victims of accidents or natural disasters, as many people had once believed. According to elderly villagers, the lake had once served as a secret execution site for women accused of violating village rules. In ancient times, if a woman was suspected of being unfaithful or accused of bringing shame upon the community, she would be taken to Blue Cave Lake to face a horrifying punishment. But the most terrifying part was that the victims were not simply thrown into the water. First, they were locked inside large bamboo cages. Then, iron chains were used to secure the cages to compacted structures at the bottom of the lake before they were completely submerged underwater. In the freezing darkness beneath the deep lake, those women had almost no chance of escape. Beneath that mirror-like surface, countless desperate cries for help were swallowed by the night while no one dared to speak out against it. A place now considered a beautiful natural attraction was once an underwater hell for many innocent women. However, what disturbed researchers the most was not only the brutality of the executions, but also the nature of the punishment itself. You see, this was never an official sentence ordered by the imperial court or established by any formal legal system. It was a form of vigilante justice carried out by village leaders of that era, a system where community power stood above both the law and basic human compassion. Although such punishments were once believed to serve as a warning to others, they actually reveal a dark chapter of ancient society when human lives, especially the lives of women, could be taken away based on nothing more than vague accusations. Even today, Blue Cave Lake in Miaozhou, Guangdong, China, remains a place that fills people with both curiosity and fear. Beneath its peaceful waters lies not only the first submerged cave discovered in China with major geological research value, but also a silent witness to a brutal history buried for more than a century. And perhaps the most terrifying part of all is that those women vanished from the world in complete silence until the skeletons resting at the bottom of the lake accidentally revealed the full horrifying truth. You see, the ancient world truly was a terrifying place, wasn't it? The remains of two Roman infants, wrapped in rare, Tyrian purple cloth, shocked the United Kingdom. In the heart of the city of York in the United Kingdom, once one of the most important centers of the ancient Roman Empire, archaeologists uncovered a small tomb that forced historians to reconsider beliefs they had held for centuries. The grave did not contain gold treasures or the weapons of a Roman emperor. Instead, it held the remains of two infant children who had rested beneath the earth for nearly 1,700 years. But the truly mysterious detail was this: the two infants had been wrapped in cloth dyed with Tyrian purple, one of the most luxurious colors in the ancient world, so expensive that at times it was worth 3 times more than pure gold. Hearing this, many people naturally wonder, who were these two children to be buried in a material that only royalty could afford to use? Honestly, even archaeologists and scientists have been asking the same question. The excavation took place in York, England, once known as Eboracum during Roman rule. As experts expanded their investigation of the ancient cemetery there, they discovered the remains of the two infants buried with extraordinary care. Although nearly 2 millennia had passed, archaeologists were astonished by the chemical traces still preserved on fragments of fabric wrapped around the bodies. After extensive analysis, researchers confirmed that the dye was indeed the famous Tyrian purple, the rarest and most valuable dye in the ancient Mediterranean world. This was also the first time in history that evidence of Tyrian purple cloth had ever been discovered in York, United Kingdom. The discovery immediately challenged long-standing assumptions held by many historians. Before this, most scholars believed that ancient Romans did not openly express deep grief over the deaths of infants. In fact, Roman society often considered it inappropriate for parents to publicly mourn children who died young. Yet the burial of these two infants tells an entirely different story. The children were not buried hastily or carelessly. On the contrary, their bodies were wrapped in the finest fabric their family could possibly obtain, almost like a farewell ceremony filled with sorrow and respect. This strongly suggests that the children's family was not only extremely wealthy, but also genuinely devastated by the loss of their children. What makes the discovery even more fascinating is that Roman burial techniques helped preserve traces of the fabric for thousands of years. At the time, Romans often poured plaster over bodies that had already been wrapped in cloth before burial. Once the plaster hardened, it unintentionally sealed in the chemical signatures of the dye, along with tiny remnants of the fabric itself. Thanks to this process, modern scientists were able to identify the presence of Tyrian purple on the infants' burial shrouds. And when it comes to Tyrian purple, this was far more than just an ordinary color. According to Greek mythology, the color was first discovered by Hercules. Legend says that Hercules' dog once bit into a sea snail along the shoreline, and its mouth suddenly turned a brilliant shade of purple. A goddess who saw the unusual color demanded that cloth be created in the same shade, and thus Tyrian purple was born. Historical records, however, suggest that Tyrian purple dye first began production in the Phoenician city of Tyre, located in present-day Lebanon, around the 16th century BC. To create this symbol of power, ancient people had to collect thousands of sea snails. They would then crush them or extract the tiny mucus glands inside the snails' bodies before salting, fermenting, and continuously boiling the mixture for about 10 days to produce the final purple dye. Just hearing the process alone makes it easy to understand why Tyrian purple was unimaginably expensive. Ancient golden mask reveals the secret of a lost kingdom in Tibet. Did you know that deep within China's Qinghai Tibet Plateau, often called the roof of the world, there exists a frozen and desolate region so harsh that many people can hardly believe humans were ever able to live there? That place is Ngari, a remote area in western Tibet where the average elevation rises above 13,000 feet above sea level. The air is dangerously thin, icy winds blow year-round, the land is barren, and the population is extremely sparse. For many people, standing in that environment for just a few hours is enough to cause exhaustion from lack of oxygen. And yet, thousands of years ago, on this seemingly uninhabitable land, an ancient civilization once flourished and built a mysterious kingdom known as Zhang. What makes the story even stranger is that despite once controlling a vast territory and strongly influencing surrounding regions, the kingdom of Zhang was eventually absorbed into Tibet and disappeared completely from history. Over time, the kingdom faded into obscurity and survived only in a handful of ancient legends. That was until a strange accident occurred in the Ningari region, an accident that unexpectedly opened the door to a secret buried for thousands of years. The incident took place near Jia Monastery, an ancient temple standing alone in the cold, barren plateau. On that day, a cargo truck was driving past the monastery gate when one of its rear wheels suddenly sank deep into the ground. Within seconds, the earth collapsed, creating a massive sinkhole, large enough to swallow nearly half the truck. The monks from Jia Monastery immediately rushed outside to help rescue the driver, but when they looked down into the newly formed pit, everyone froze in shock. Beneath the collapsed earth and rocks was not a natural cave, but the remains of an ancient structure that had been buried for centuries. The discovery was quickly reported to Chinese archaeologists. Not long afterward, experts arrived in Ningari to begin an emergency excavation. Fearing that the artifacts underground could be damaged because of the difficult terrain, the archaeological team even asked the monks of Jia Monastery to assist with the excavation by carefully digging by hand. Then, one by one, ancient artifacts began emerging from beneath layers of dust and time. One of the most astonishing discoveries was an incredibly delicate piece of silk. Even after being buried for thousands of years, the fabric still displayed visible animal patterns and ancient symbols on its surface. Some experts believe it may have been a product of an ancient Tibetan silk weaving tradition, suggesting that the craftsmanship of the Zhang kingdom was far more advanced than previously believed. But the discoveries did not stop there. While continuing to excavate the ancient tomb, archaeologists suddenly uncovered a shimmering golden mask lying beside a human body. The mask had been crafted from thin sheets of gold and featured an astonishingly intricate design with remarkably fine details. From that moment, experts quickly realized this was no ordinary artifact. In many ancient nomadic cultures throughout Xinjiang and Central Asia, golden masks were often used to cover the faces of the dead during burial rituals reserved for powerful elites. Objects like these were typically found only in the tombs of tribal leaders or kings. That means the owner of the underground tomb in Ningari may have been an extremely important figure within the kingdom of Zhang, perhaps even the ruler of the entire kingdom. 50 Viking skeletons, still perfectly preserved, after 1,000 years, shock Denmark. During an archaeological excavation at an ancient burial site covering more than 21,500 square feet in the peaceful countryside of Asum, near the city of Odense in Denmark, a place now surrounded only by wide-open fields and quiet rural roads, archaeologist Michael Borre-Lundo and his research team uncovered as many as 50 Viking skeletons preserved in astonishing condition. For European archaeologists, this is considered an exceptionally rare discovery because Viking-era remains are usually very difficult to preserve due to the harsh soil and weather conditions of Northern Europe. But in Asum, Denmark, everything turned out to be completely different. As layer after layer of earth was carefully removed, experts gradually realized they were not simply excavating an ordinary cemetery, but possibly an entire ancient Viking community that had once lived there more than 1,100 years ago. What made the excavation truly remarkable was the incredible state of preservation of the skeletons. Many of the remains were still almost completely intact, resting in ancient burial positions alongside a wide range of valuable grave goods. Beside the skeletons, the archaeological team discovered iron knives, jewelry, glass beads, and even crystal pieces buried with the dead. These artifacts reveal that the Vikings were not merely brutal warriors as they are often portrayed in movies, but a people with a highly developed culture, belief system, and craftsmanship. According to initial analysis, the entire burial site dates back to the 9th century AD, during the period when Denmark was ruled by Gorm and Thyra at Jelling, figures widely regarded as the first rulers to lay the foundations of the Kingdom of Denmark. The people who once lived during the Viking Age were now appearing before archaeologists almost exactly as they had been buried more than 1,000 years ago. Each skeleton seemed like a doorway through time, transporting modern humanity back to an era when Viking longships dominated northern Europe. But among the dozens of graves uncovered, one burial in particular captured the attention of every expert at the site. It was the remains of a Viking woman buried alongside an entire horse-drawn wagon. The moment archaeologists uncovered this grave, they immediately understood that the woman had certainly not been an ordinary person. Surrounding her skeleton were numerous valuable artifacts, ranging from finely crafted glass bead necklaces to an elaborately forged iron sword. In ancient Viking society, being buried with a wagon was a burial honor reserved only for individuals of extremely high status. This suggests that the woman may have belonged to a powerful family, been a noblewoman, or perhaps held a special role within the Viking community of her time. The discovery has also forced many researchers to reconsider the role of women in Viking society. Until now, the Viking image has almost always been associated with fierce male warriors. But this extraordinary grave suggests that Viking women may also have held significant power and social status within their communities. According to archaeologist Michael Borre-Lundo, the entire excavation site now resembles a living archive for modern archaeology. He explained that skeletons preserved this well provide an incredibly valuable opportunity for future in-depth studies. Because of this, his research team is currently planning to conduct DNA analysis on all 50 Viking skeletons discovered in Assam. Their goal is not only to identify the individuals or determine their origins, but also to better understand the social structure of ancient Viking society. How these people were related to one another, where they migrated from, how they lived, and whether this community had connections to famous Viking groups known throughout Europe. Through modern DNA technology, experts hope to reconstruct the life stories of people who died more than 1,000 years ago. And perhaps the most fascinating part is this. Every skeleton beneath that Danish soil is not simply a cold archaeological artifact, but the remains of a real human being. These people once lived, fought, loved, and existed during the height of Viking civilization. Now, after more than 1,000 years of silence beneath the cold earth of Denmark, those skeletons are finally beginning to tell the stories that history once forgot. Do you find that fascinating? Or do you have your own thoughts about these 50 Viking skeletons? If so, don't hesitate to leave your opinion in the comments below. The Roman Empire's death well and the 7 skeletons thrown to the bottom for 1,700 years. In the city of Osijek in eastern Croatia, there was an ancient well that had remained buried and forgotten for nearly 2 millennia. From the outside, it looked no different from any ordinary ruin left behind from the days of ancient Rome. But no one could have imagined that beneath the darkness at the bottom of that well lay a bloody and violent secret of the Roman Empire. This story came to light in 2011 when archaeologists began excavating the area before the construction of a new university in Osijek. During the dig, they unexpectedly uncovered an ancient well hidden deep underground. In Roman times, this area was known as Mursa, an extremely important military settlement located near the empire's frontier. At first, experts believed it was simply another ancient water structure like many Roman wells previously discovered across Europe. But as they dug deeper toward the bottom, the atmosphere at the site grew increasingly tense. Then came the horrifying discovery. Beneath the cold layers of mud and soil were human skeletons piled on top of one another in the darkness. In total, 7 adult male skeletons were discovered at the bottom of the well. What made the scene especially disturbing was that the bodies had not been buried according to any traditional ritual. Instead, they had been thrown in carelessly in chaotic positions. Some skeletons were lying on their sides, while others were face down with their heads pointed directly toward the bottom of the well, as if they had been violently tossed in without mercy. For nearly 1,700 years, the well had remained a hidden mass grave unknown to the world. According to Mario Novak, a bioarchaeologist at the Institute for Anthropological Research in Zagreb, Croatia, and the lead author of the study, all of the men appeared to have been stripped of every valuable possession before being thrown into the well. There were no weapons, no armor, no jewelry, and nothing that could help identify them. This strongly suggested that the site was far more than a normal burial. After detailed analysis, researchers confirmed that all 7 skeletons belonged to adult men. 4 of them were relatively young, while the other 3 were middle-aged. But what truly sent chills through the experts was the evidence of injuries found on their bodies. Some of the skeletons showed signs of severe blunt force trauma to the head. Several individuals had broken ribs, while others still bore marks consistent with wounds caused by sharp weapons. In other words, these men had most likely endured a brutal battle before their deaths. Not only that, but scientists also discovered evidence suggesting that several of them had suffered from respiratory infections shortly before they died. This reflects the extremely harsh living conditions faced by Roman soldiers during the wars and chaos of the 3rd century. To determine the exact time period, experts used carbon dating on 4 of the skeletons. The results showed that the men lived during the second half of the 3rd century AD. What makes this especially remarkable is that the dating perfectly matches the only artifact discovered at the bottom of the well, a Roman coin minted in 251 AD. Based on the archaeological evidence and the geographic location of the town of Mursa, researchers eventually reached a chilling conclusion. The 7 skeletons were most likely Roman soldiers who had fought in the Battle of Mursa in 260 AD. This was a bloody civil war between Emperor Gallienus and the Roman general Ingenuus, who had rebelled in an attempt to seize the throne of the Roman Empire but ultimately failed. According to ancient historical records, after his victory, Emperor Gallienus brutally punished those who had supported Ingenuus. He reportedly showed almost no mercy to the defeated. That is why researchers believe the 7 skeletons at the bottom of the well may have belonged to soldiers loyal to Ingenuus. After losing the battle, they were stripped of their possessions, killed or left to die, and then thrown into the well as a cold and calculated way to dispose of their bodies. Today, that ancient well is no longer just an underground structure. It has become a silent piece of evidence from one of the most chaotic and blood-soaked periods of the Roman Empire, a time when defeated soldiers could be erased from history in the cruelest possible way, left forever at the bottom of a dark well for nearly 17 centuries. Just thinking about it is enough to send chills down your spine, isn't it? Down your spine. The moon goddess, coined beneath the Sea of Israel, reveals an 1,850-year-old mystery connected to the Roman Empire. Off the coast of Israel, where the waves of the Mediterranean Sea crash endlessly against ancient rocky shores, countless secrets of history have remained hidden beneath the ocean floor for thousands of years, unknown to humanity. And sometimes, all it takes is a single accidental moment during an underwater survey for a lost piece of the past to suddenly reappear before our eyes. During a maritime survey along the coast of Israel, conducted by the Israel Antiquities Authority, ancient coin specialist Lior Sandberg discovered a strange object buried among sand and rocks beneath the sea. At first glance, it looked no different from a corroded piece of metal worn down by centuries of seawater. But once it was carefully recovered and cleaned, what appeared before the experts astonished the entire archaeological community. It was an ancient bronze coin estimated to be around 1,850 years old. What made the discovery extraordinary was the image engraved on the surface of the coin. Despite the metal being stained by time, experts could still clearly see the figure of Luna, the famous moon goddess from ancient Roman mythology, along with the zodiac symbol Cancer, both carved with remarkable detail. From that very moment, researchers understood this was no ordinary coin. According to Roman mythology, Luna was the goddess who represented the moon and the night sky. She was often depicted wearing a crescent-shaped crown while riding a chariot across the heavens to bring moonlight to the world below. For centuries, Luna's image was associated with divine power, the cycles of time, and the spiritual beliefs of ancient Rome. That is why the appearance of this goddess on an ancient coin discovered beneath the sea off Israel immediately drew intense attention from archaeologists. After conducting detailed analysis using archaeological and ancient numismatic techniques, experts determined that the coin had been minted during the reign of Roman Emperor Antoninus Pius, who ruled the Roman Empire from 138 AD to 161 AD. Historians consider this period one of the most stable and prosperous eras of ancient Rome. During this time, the empire's trade networks stretched across the Mediterranean, connecting territories from Europe and North Africa to the Middle East. And this tiny coin may serve as vivid evidence of those commercial connections. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Roman ships loaded with goods may once have docked along the shores of ancient Israel. Merchants traveling across the Mediterranean likely used coins exactly like this one to trade goods, purchase food, textiles, and valuable handcrafted items. Then somehow, this particular coin fell into the sea and remained buried beneath the sand for nearly 2 millennia. But what truly makes this discovery so special is not simply its age of 1,850 years, but the extremely rare imagery engraved on its surface. A coin featuring the goddess Luna combined with the zodiac sign, Cancer is not a design commonly found in ordinary archaeological discoveries. It reflects how the ancient Romans blended mythology with astronomy and astrology in everyday life, even placing those symbols onto currency circulated throughout the empire. According to experts from the Israel Antiquities Authority, the discovery is like a message from the past, reminding modern humanity of the important role trade played between the Roman Empire and ancient Israel. 4,500-year-old treasure in Troy. A shocking discovery reveals secrets of the ancient world. In the ancient lands of northwestern Turkey, a place long tied to some of humanity's most famous legends, there stands a mythical city that for thousands of years many believed existed only in epic poems and mythology. That city is Troy, the legendary site of the famous Trojan War in Greek mythology, where ancient warriors were said to have fought over the beauty of the renowned Helen of Troy. But the deeper archaeologists dig beneath the soil of Troy, the more they realize that this place was far more than just a legend. And recently, at the site of Troy in Turkey, the archaeological world was once again stunned when a rare treasure, more than 4,500 years old, was unexpectedly uncovered beneath layers of ancient earth. According to archaeologists involved in the excavation project, this is considered one of the most important archaeological discoveries made at the legendary city of Troy in the past century. Among the artifacts recently uncovered, the object that captured the attention of researchers around the world was a golden brooch that remained almost perfectly intact despite having rested underground for thousands of years. Experts determined that the ancient brooch dates back approximately 4,500 years to the early Bronze Age, around 2,500 BC. Just imagine it for a moment. A golden object crafted by human hands nearly 5,000 years ago, surviving countless wars, natural disasters, and the collapse of entire civilizations. And yet today it still remains almost perfectly preserved beneath the soil of Troy. What does that tell us? As soon as the artifact was cleaned, experts were astonished by the extraordinary craftsmanship of the ancient people who created it. The brooch, also described as a ring-shaped pin, was once used as a practical object to fasten clothing. But more importantly, it also symbolized power, status, and social prestige in the ancient world. In other words, the owner of this object may once have been an extremely important figure in early Troy society. The discoveries did not stop with the precious golden brooch. The archaeological team also uncovered a jade stone and an ancient bronze pin. Both artifacts date back to the early Bronze Age, further strengthening the enormous historical significance of the excavation site. But what makes this discovery even more extraordinary is the exact location where the golden brooch was found. According to experts, the treasure was discovered within the archaeological layer known as Troy II, an ancient settlement phase at Troy whose exact dating has been debated by archaeologists for decades. Previously, many scholars believed the Troy II layer began sometime between 2300 and 2200 BC. However, other researchers argued that the civilization there may have emerged much earlier. Now, this 4,500-year-old golden brooch acts almost like a living timestamp, helping resolve that long-running debate. Archaeological analysis indicates that the Troy II layer truly dates back to around 2500 BC, significantly earlier than many previous theories suggested. This not only helps redefine the timeline of ancient Troy itself, but also provides an extremely important reference point for studying the entire Bronze Age period throughout Asia Minor and the ancient Mediterranean world. Even Mehmet Nuri Ersoy, Turkey's Minister of Culture and Tourism, described the find as one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the past 100 years. All of the artifacts were uncovered as part of the Heritage for the Future project, launched by Turkey's Ministry of Culture and Tourism to preserve and study the nation's most significant ancient heritage sites. Have you noticed something? What makes discoveries like this truly fascinating is not simply the gold, wealth, or rarity of the artifacts themselves. What is truly astonishing is that every object uncovered beneath the earth is like a surviving fragment of memory from an ancient civilization. The secret tunnel beneath the Roman Colosseum. Emperor Commodus's 2,000-year-old passageway has finally been opened. Beneath the massive Roman Colosseum in the city of Rome, Italy, a place that once witnessed thousands of bloody battles fought by ancient gladiators, there exists a secret passageway that, for nearly 2,000 years, only the most powerful figures of the Roman Empire were allowed to enter. It was not a hidden treasure chamber or a secret prison as many might imagine, but an incredibly sophisticated ancient tunnel built to allow the Roman emperor to move directly into the royal section inside the arena without ever appearing before the massive crowds outside. And remarkably, after being buried underground for nearly 2 millennia, this secret tunnel has finally been restored almost completely intact and officially opened to the public. The tunnel is known as the Passage of Commodus. It stretches approximately 180 feet beneath the Colosseum and was constructed exclusively for the emperor and special guests, allowing them to enter the royal seating area directly without passing through the crowds outside the arena. The passage was named after Emperor Commodus, the ruler who governed the Roman Empire from 177 AD to 192 AD. When it comes to Commodus, many historians consider him one of the strangest emperors in Roman history. Unlike rulers who simply sat upon the throne and observed from a distance, Commodus was obsessed with the image of the gladiator. He frequently entered the arena himself to participate in staged battles against gladiators and wild animals in order to display his power. What makes the story even more remarkable is that this very emperor was once nearly assassinated inside the secret tunnel that now bears his name. According to archaeologists, the Passage of Commodus was constructed not long after the completion of the Roman Colosseum itself. The enormous structure was built in Rome, Italy between 72 AD and 80 AD, during the reigns of Emperor Vespasian and his successor Titus. Meanwhile, the secret tunnel is believed to have been added sometime in the late 1st century or early 2nd century AD. To this day, researchers still have not determined the exact original starting point of the passage. However, they know with certainty that the tunnel led directly to a private chamber inside the Colosseum, the place where Roman emperors sat while watching gladiatorial death matches, wild animal hunts, and violent spectacles that once shook ancient Rome. What astonishes archaeologists most is the sophistication of the tunnel's design. The Passage of Commodus was built in an S-shaped layout, helping conceal visibility while also increasing protection for the emperor during movement. The walls on both sides were once decorated with luxurious marble and intricate frescoes. During previous excavations near the internal entrance to the arena, archaeologists also uncovered artwork depicting wild boar hunts, battles involving savage beasts, and performances that once took place inside the Roman Colosseum. In other words, the walls of this tunnel witnessed both the bloodiest and most glorious periods of the Roman Empire. In fact, the secret tunnel was first discovered by French archaeologists in the early 19th century, but for many decades afterward, much of the structure remained in severe deterioration due to dirt, humidity, and the destruction caused by time. Only recently did Italian experts begin a massive restoration project aimed at recovering nearly the entire ancient structure. During the restoration, specialists removed centuries of accumulated dust, reinforced the ancient mortar using modern laser technology, and revealed marble wall sections carved with astonishing detail. The restoration project has now been completed, and today visitors can finally walk through the very same tunnel used by Roman emperors nearly 2,000 years ago. So if you ever have the opportunity, you should definitely visit this place to experience the mystery of this ancient tunnel with your own eyes. 200-million-year-old dinosaur fossils discovered in Ireland. Along the cold coastline of County Antrim in Northern Ireland, where the waves of the Atlantic Ocean crash endlessly against dark rocky cliffs, an ancient secret lay hidden beneath layers of stone for nearly 200 million years. That secret was first discovered in the 1980s when fossil collector Roger Byrne was walking along the eastern coast of County Antrim in Northern Ireland and unexpectedly came across several strange bone fragments embedded within the ancient coastal rock formations. At first, they looked no different from the ordinary fossilized stones commonly found throughout the region, but from his experience, Byrne sensed that there was something very unusual about the bones. Because of that, he preserved the specimens for many years before eventually donating them to the Ulster Museum in the city of Belfast, Northern Ireland. However, for decades, the ancient bone fragments remained stored quietly in the museum archives, with no one truly knowing which creature they belonged to. It was only recently, when scientists decided to conduct an in-depth study using modern technology, that the decades-long mystery was finally solved. The results astonished the entire paleontology community. Experts from University of Portsmouth and Queen's University Belfast confirmed that these specimens were the first dinosaur fossils ever discovered in Ireland. According to Mike Sims, lead researcher and paleontologist at the National Museum's Northern Ireland, most rock layers in Ireland are not from the correct geological period to preserve dinosaur bones. Because of this, discovering dinosaur fossils there is considered extraordinarily rare. That is why the County Antrim discovery is regarded as a major breakthrough in the history of Irish paleontological research. But what makes the discovery even more fascinating is that after using high-resolution 3D fossil scanning technology, researchers found that the specimens belonged not to one, but to two completely different dinosaur species. One of them was a heavily armored plant-eating dinosaur with an incredibly strong body. Its bones were thick and durable, functioning like natural armor against predators. The other species was completely different, a fast-moving predator that walked on two legs, with a slender and highly flexible skeleton belonging to the famous theropod group of dinosaurs. After further analysis, experts identified the four-legged herbivore as belonging to the genus Scelidosaurus, while the two-legged predator was identified as Sarcosaurus. This means that around 200 million years ago, the land that is now Ireland was once home to both plant-eating dinosaurs and fierce predators. But the discoveries did not stop there. Scientists uncovered another extremely intriguing detail. Another Scelidosaurus fossil found within marine geological layers led many experts to believe that this armored dinosaur may once have lived near coastlines or ancient seas. Some theories even suggest that it may have fed on seaweed, similar to modern marine iguanas. It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? A giant armored dinosaur wandering near the shoreline and feeding on seaweed hundreds of millions of years ago on the ancient land of Ireland. This discovery not only expands scientific understanding of early dinosaur life, but also offers a new perspective on the ancient marine ecosystem of Northern Ireland. Perhaps the most astonishing part is that these bone fragments survived nearly 200 million years despite exposure to seawater, freezing winds, and the Earth's dramatic geological transformations. The Mongol warship, sunk by the divine wind, beneath the Sea of Japan. Recently, in a bay near the city of Matsuura on the western coast of Kyushu Island in Japan, divers discovered the wreck of an ancient Mongol warship believed to have taken part in Kublai Khan's invasion of Japan around 730 years ago. The moment the news was announced, the worlds of archaeology and history were immediately shaken. This shipwreck is not simply an ordinary ancient vessel. It may be part of the remains of the massive fleet that once plunged all of Japan into fear during the 13th century. But to truly understand the significance of this discovery, we must return to the height of the Mongol Empire's power. In the 13th century, Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan and founder of the Yuan dynasty in China, built an enormous empire stretching across Asia. But his ambitions did not stop on land. Japan soon became his next target. According to historical records, Kublai Khan launched two massive military expeditions to invade Japan in 1274 and again in 1281. At the time, he reportedly mobilized around 4,000 warships and approximately 140,000 soldiers to cross the sea toward Japan. It was considered one of the largest military fleets in the medieval world. But strangely, despite commanding such overwhelming forces, both invasions failed in an incredibly mysterious way. According to Japanese historical accounts, During both campaigns, the Mongol fleets were struck by devastating storms at sea. Massive waves and violent winds sank thousands of warships within a short period of time. The Japanese believed the gods had protected their nation through these sacred storms, and they called the phenomenon divine wind, better known throughout history as kamikaze. And now, after more than 7 centuries resting beneath the Sea of Japan, part of that legendary fleet has finally emerged. According to the research team, the newly discovered shipwreck lies in a bay near the city of Matsura in Nagasaki Prefecture on Japan's Kyushu Island. The wreck measures approximately 66 feet long and about 23 feet wide. Based on the ship's design and the artifacts found nearby, experts believe this vessel belonged to the Mongol fleet that participated in the invasion of Japan during the 13th century. What surprised archaeologists most is how remarkably well-preserved the wreck remains, despite having rested beneath the ocean for around 730 years. Around the ship, divers also discovered several pieces of 13th century pottery, including a white jar and a white bowl scattered beneath the seabed sand. According to Atsuyuki Nakata, a cultural affairs official from the city of Matsura, the discovery is extremely valuable because it helps researchers better understand ancient Mongol shipbuilding technology. Experts now hope to closely analyze the ship's hull to determine what materials the Mongols used more than 700 years ago, as well as how they constructed warships capable of crossing the sea on such a massive scale. What is especially noteworthy is that this is not the first ship from the Mongol invasion fleet to be discovered. According to archaeologists, this is the 3rd Mongol warship found beneath the waters surrounding Japan. But the more wrecks that are uncovered, the more haunting the mystery of the Divine Wind Fleet becomes. Historians believe that off the coast of Japan today, there may still be hundreds, perhaps even thousands, of additional shipwrecks resting deep beneath the sea. These were ships that once carried soldiers, weapons, and the ambition to conquer an entire nation. As you can see, from the Mongol warships resting deep beneath the Sea of Japan, to the secret tunnels hidden beneath ancient Rome, and the priceless treasures unearthed in the legendary city of Troy, all of these discoveries prove that human history still holds countless secrets buried beneath the earth and the oceans. Perhaps somewhere in the world, even at this very moment, there are still lost civilizations waiting to be found, ancient tombs that have never been opened, and artifacts powerful enough to completely change humanity's understanding of the past. So what about you? Which discovery do you think is the most astonishing? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future videos from the Ancient History channel. And for now, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.